This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Everybody, welcome to the official Night of Champions prediction show, preview and prediction show. I've got Anthony DeMarco with me tonight as we substituted our current state of WWE for this show this week, and really excited to have him on as we haven't done a preview and prediction show. I honestly don't even know the last time, but welcome to the show, Anthony.
Yeah, honestly, it fell pretty well this week because as we were talking about off air, I was coming off of a bachelor party over the weekend last week, and then this week I actually fell on vacation for my big boy job, and I love doing preview and prediction shows, and it feels good to be back here, especially given the fact that it is a pay-per-view week, so that means no retro, so it just feels good to get a show in later in the week nonetheless.
Well, I'm glad that the pay-per-view schedule for WWE aligned with your hangover recovery of not having to do the shows for the week. So I'm glad the stars aligned for you. And I'll be at Raw this coming Monday night. So those of you out there, I keep saying that, take a look. I'll be the idiot trying to selflessly, shamelessly promote the show with a sign that hopefully doesn't get taken away. So look for me. I'll be in the front row of the bottom section. And that's that. But let's get to Night of Champions as we roll into the show that has 6 matches and one that, to me, doesn't look like it's going to have a ton of surprises. I keep predicting returns, like Randy Orton returns. So before we get into the card, are you excited about the card, and do you see any kind of wacky returns like Randy Orton or Bray Wyatt or anybody else like that?
I don't know. I don't think Saudi Arabia has typically been a big return show. I think it's very much like what you see is what you get on the surface. And maybe it's because Saudi Arabia just has so much money that they rather just pay for the big news up front than have to maybe be swerved towards the end of the show or in the middle of the show. So I don't foresee a major return coming in. Obviously, we have a lot of uncertainty surrounding Randy Orton's return to the ring. Bray Wyatt, who the hell even knows what his future has in store for him. I believe I saw something that he may feud, maybe it was AJ Styles, I'm not sure, but then we got a hint that maybe they're going to do AJ Styles versus Karrion Kross, which kind of alludes to what we all knew, that it's probably not going to be AJ Styles walking away with the World Heavyweight Championship. But no, I don't foresee a massive return coming, just because I don't think Saudi Arabia has typically been a show like that.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning too, as far as any kind of return. And just because, as you said, I mean, Saudi Arabia hasn't been the place or the platform to have any of those returns. It doesn't feel like a pay-per-view for that. It doesn't feel like the time or place, even if it wasn't in Saudi Arabia, to have a lot of returns. And really, when we look towards the next event, which is in London in the O2 Arena, July 1st, Money in the Bank is quickly becoming kind of an pay-per-view. It's not quite SummerSlam, but it has become its own monster, and it's in a massive arena in front of going to be a very loud crowd, of course, in about 6 or 5 weeks rather. So that'll be coming right away as we head into Monday Night Raw, and there's Money in the Bank qualifying matches already scheduled for Monday Night Raw. So we're going to jump very quickly into Money in the Bank, and that's going to be a whole nother fun discussion. But before we get there, let's dive into the card. And I'll start with from the bottom up, as we always do, and start with Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. And Anthony, I will give the baton to you on this one.
Well, it's very, very interesting because I didn't think that I'd be this invested into a Trish Stratus program in 2023, but I think turning her heel was a brilliant creative decision, because we often forget, because she's been away from the ring in a full-time capacity for how long? She retired in 2006, I want to say, maybe I think it was 2006. So, we haven't seen her in a full-time role in more than 15 years. And inherently, legends kind of just become baby faces. Like, we even saw that with Kurt Angle, right, when he returned. Like, Kurt Angle was much more oftentimes a big-time heel than he was a babyface, but when he came back, we all just loved him because, hey, it's Kurt Angle. But because clearly Trish has maybe not a full-time run, but an edge type of schedule left in her for 2023, they had to go back to the classic Trish Stratus, who was a heel. And I even saw that for the graphics for the match, they had her cowboy hat back on, which is so awesome because I don't think she's worn the cowboy hat since even before Ruthless Aggression. I think we're going back to probably the Attitude Era for that, really trying to tap into her old school, like, nostalgia character. But all this being said, do I think she's going to come away with the victory? Honestly, I think maybe she does. I don't think this is one and done for Trish Stratus, and I didn't think I'd be saying this coming in, but to be honest, I think maybe Trish Stratus has a good run left in her, maybe all the way to SummerSlam. So I think they're going to want to get some heat behind her. So I think that Trish Stratus, by hook or crook, maybe comes away with this victory.
Yeah, this actually is a difficult match to predict because turning a legend heel is really something they have not done. And as you said, I 100% agree with the heel turn. I loved it. When she's a babyface, she's kind of awkward, always making sure she's careful in what she says. And with a heel, it's kind of just, she feels way more natural. And I know for some reason, a lot of people didn't like her promo this past week with Becky on the contract signing. I actually really did. Trish Stratus has never been awesome on the mic. That's never been who she is and what we think of her as and what her legacy is. We don't look back and say, wow, remember all those great Trish Stratus promos? Like, that's never been a thing that she's been known for. She's been known for being a credible act during an era where women were basically a joke and sexualized. And she is kind of what she says she is. Her and others, Jazz and Lita, among others, that were Molly Holly, that really did blaze the trail for actual legitimate women's wrestling, and she was the face of that to some degree. So she, in a lot of her promos, have cut this very logic into Becky Lynch and said, hey, you wouldn't be here. There would be no man without me and all this. So I actually have enjoyed her promos. She isn't the best on the mic, but for a Trish Stratus promo, I've enjoyed that. And in the ring, I don't have any concerns. Is she going to be as good as Becky Lynch is or some of the women today? No. And it's because the women have elevated themselves about 5 levels above what even Lita and Trish were known for back in the day. Now, ultimately, what do I think is going to happen? I'm going to go with Becky Lynch winning here, and not because I don't think Trish is going to, or I think Trish is going to go away. I actually think she's going to stick around because you don't turn someone heel and then have them go away. There's a bit of a longevity to this. So I think Trish sticks around, but Becky, I believe, does get the victory. However, it's going to be because of Lita. I think Lita does, because Lita's been MIA during this whole thing, and it was revealed that Trish did attack Lita backstage a number of weeks ago, and that was never followed up on. So I think maybe somebody comes out, tries to screw over Becky, but Lita evens the score, costs Trish the match, and Becky Lynch is able to get the victory. And maybe it leads to, I don't know if it's going to happen, Trish versus Lita in 2023, which sounds insane, but the platform's there. I mean, it's there. The stars are there.
Yeah, it was a major like swerve to even think about Lita versus Trish, to be quite honest with you, in 2023. But like, again, like, typically, when you went back to their rivalry 20 odd years ago, Lita was the babyface and Trish was the heel. And we just kind of became accustomed to both of them being babyfaces and both of them being best friends. But to be honest, they were always blood rivals, personal rivalries. Even when they switched shares and you had Lita as the heel and Trish as the babyface for the latter's retirement match, I believe it was Unforgiven in Toronto in 2006, in the month of September, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that this is one of those maybe not rare matches, but just one of those matches where you could make a case for either competitor to come away with the W. I'm just leaning Trish because I feel like this isn't one and done for her. It feels like there needs to be something else. They built up her character to go elsewhere with it. And I don't think that she's won a singles match since returning to the company. What was it, a couple of years ago now? So I'm leaning Trish, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's Becky.
I mean, Becky, too, was also the number one in the first round draft pick, which was shocking during the draft. And I know most people have kind of forgotten about that, but I remember thinking, wow, Becky Lynch, who hasn't done a whole lot, is in the first round of the draft. And so that kind of tells you where they think Becky Lynch is in the pecking order of things. But honestly, I'm not going to be mad at either decision. Neither decision will get me angry, because if Trish beats Becky, then fine. That means this program continues. If Becky beats Trish, cool. Then the heel gets what they got coming to them. Really, this is kind of just a fun, not super emotional investment, but just interested in the outcome kind of match. I mean, I really don't know what else to say about this. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not going to be angry at either decision.
Yep. No, I agree 100%. You can't say it's a can't miss match, but they would really have to do something out there to make this a banana of an outcome. Like, obviously, match quality is a completely different story. Who knows how? Is this Trish's first one-on-one matchup since returning?
Ooh, good question. From this particular run, I think it is.
Yeah, and okay, now think about it. I don't know how many years ago this was. I think it was 2019. I think she had the one-on-one match with Charlotte at SummerSlam, which was kind of like an unofficial passing of the torch. So if that's the case, we're talking like since before COVID, since she's had a one-on-one match. So it will be interesting. Pardon me. And Becky Lynch certainly isn't a ring general like Charlotte is, but I'm confident in this, and I think that they've done a good job building the story, and I think that the character development on both sides has got me more intrigued than before.
Yeah, I think we're as interested as anyone could hope for. I mean, I that's all I can say. There's not a ton of substance to this match. The story is as good as it could have been, honestly, and executed as good as it could be expected. So, yeah, fine. Like, this is going to be in a match I'm paying attention to. It's not going to be a match that I'm like, I'm just going to go to the bathroom or whatever. Like, I'm going to pay attention to this because it interests me from especially a in-ring perspective. How does Trish fare in 2023 in a one-on-one match? So, yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to another women's match, the Raw Women's Championship. This one, I'm actually, in terms of level of interest, I'm less interested in the championship match for the women than I am with Becky Lynch and Trish. And that's because simply, and I can't understate this enough, Bianca Belair is flat out boring at this point. I mean, and it's not that her in-ring ability has diminished. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's just that they have not done anything with her in like 6 months. She has been the same character with nothing new to add, nothing new to her entrance, nothing new with her promo. She's just there. And I think the fans are starting to turn a little bit on her. The reactions when she comes out are muted at best. They're not booing her yet, but don't forget, I know it was Puerto Rico, different kind of crowd, but hearing her get booed at least when she was facing Io Sky in Puerto Rico was so awesome to hear. And I don't know, and I didn't think it was going to translate immediately, but this match, honestly, I mean, I care, but I don't, because Asuka is not going to win this, you would imagine. It's going to be a continuation of Bianca Belair's championship run. My only hope for this is that it's going to be a Bianca Belair heel turn, but it's not going to happen only because Asuka just freshly turned heel, so you can't have Bianca then turn heel. This is to me just it's the match quality is going to be absolutely fine. I'm not concerned about that because of how athletic both women are in the ring and how good they are. But I really have no vested interest in this because we all know the outcome, and my only hope is that maybe Bianca starts to get booed from the crowd.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I've appreciated what they've tried to do with Asuka here, and I do like Bianca Belair. I've always been a Bianca Belair fan, and I've tried to stick it out with her, and I really do think that she still is arguably the best, forget female competitor, but best in-ring competitor, bar none, male or female, in the WWE right now. But the thing is that her character has become stale. And the feud with Asuka has become stale, but was it ever hot to begin with? That was the thing. Even going into WrestleMania, I wasn't that interested in it. And yes, you've added the whole Mist thing that Asuka kind of turned heel through this all, when before it was just a babyface versus babyface. So they have tried to spicing it up a bit, which I could appreciate, but I just don't have a lot of interest. And I also think this is relatively predictable. I don't want to like spend no time discussing this match, but I think it's Bianca Belair. Asuka's not going to be the one to dethrone her, and I'm just not all that invested into this because I think both characters are stale, and it sucks to say for Asuka because they have just turned her heel and they have added a new dimension to her character, recently changed her theme music, but I'm just not invested into her right now.
No, the emotional investment for me from a 1 to 10 is like a 2. And it's only a 2 and not a 1 because I'm very slightly hopeful that they turn Bianca, but there's the setup isn't there. The strategy here doesn't seem to be aligning with a Bianca Belair heel turn, and Asuka freshly turning heel doesn't help. And Asuka using the mist, we're all supposed to believe that this is some kind of new wrinkle to her. She's been using mist her entire career, whether she's babyface or heel, and they have told us, well, it's chili peppers in there, or like some kind of crushed pepper. I'm like, well then, okay, first, there's so many things wrong with that. Number one, if it is, then Asuka's mouth would be on fire holding it in there for however long she is, number one. And number two, why was everyone else, before we were told chili peppers were in the mist, selling it like it was, mace? And so, like, it doesn't add up to me. We're supposed to believe, oh, it's a more vicious version. Nonsense. People have sold it like that forever. And the haircut, I do like the new look of Asuka. I'll give her that. I like the look. I like what they're trying to do. I just don't care about this program, and I hate saying that because, as you said, Bianca is so good in the ring. So damn good. It's really, I don't think we've seen her best days yet, or even her best match yet. Same with Asuka, who continues to always put on really good match after really good match. I don't know if I've seen a bad Asuka match. It's just that right now, both are cold, even with a fresh heel turn. We have a stale babyface with a kind of a ho-hum heel turn on top of what's the story here? Oh, missed. I don't care. I mean, like, it's I hate to say that because both are amazing wrestlers. I just have no interest in this, and I think most fans would agree with you. Add in that who's going to win this, and it's a recipe for just kind of bathroom break, and that's insane to say with the Raw Women's Championship.
Yeah, and especially with two competitors as elite, and I don't think that's extreme to say, as Bianca and Asuka. I wanted to say Alexa for some reason. I wish it was Alexa,
right.
Yeah. But I mean, it sucks when you get two competitors this good in the ring, and at one time very interesting. Like, you rewind 12 to 15 months ago, or honestly 12 to 24 months ago, there was no one hotter on the female side of things than Bianca Belair. Asuka has certainly had her fair share of main event level runs, but I just feel right now both characters seem a bit stale, and the program never really got off the ground, in my opinion. It feels like they're just treading water with Bianca Belair until they find a legit competitor to step up to her.
Yeah, that's what this is. It's just kind of a stepping stone to get her to Money in the Bank, and maybe whoever wins the Money in the Bank will cash in on Bianca. I mean, maybe that's what does it. I don't know. Either way, even if and when Bianca drops it, I need her to turn heel. She needs a character change in the absolute worst way. She could maybe add a new wrinkle to her babyface, but she's been babyface for a couple of years now. Like, I'm ready to see a nasty Bianca Belair and just go AWOL and lose it on people. And she could do it, and she's done it. She's been a heel in the past. If you look at her career, she's capable of it, and I hope they go that road. I mean, I'm not exactly hopeful they will, but at least in the short term. So, all right, let's get to the Intercontinental Championship match. Interesting match, but I think there is a very heavy favorite in this one. Mustafa Ali versus Gunther. This one, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Is there any chance in hell Ali wins this match?
I'm not gonna lie. How could I put this? I've begun to get a bit scared about this because was I wrong to say that he said he's going to leave WWE if he loses this match?
I saw that just today.
Yeah, and that scares me a bit, and we know how WWE gets when they go overseas in people's home country, and I don't know if Mustafa Ali is from Saudi Arabia, but obviously he's from Middle Eastern descent. And, you see how they've really kind of crapped all over his legitimacy leading into this. On Monday Night Raw, you have Brock Lesnar interrupt his promo backstage, says, "Get a life, kid." So I'm still going to say Gunther, just because I hope common sense prevails. And I do like Mustafa Ali. I think he's a very underutilized talent, but there's a part of me that's getting scared that they're going to pull the trigger on Mustafa Ali.
I think what they've done is gone as extreme as they can to put any kind of doubt in the fans' minds that they can. And I mean, they have gone to the extreme, and that is, my career's on the line in this match. That's essentially what this is for Ali. It's a career match. It's a career, or I win or I'm out. And that is really the only way that it could have created any kind of drama in this match. So mission accomplished. I mean, because now we have that little seed of like, wow, well, yeah, we've seen matches like this in the past when someone puts their career on the line, they ended up pulling through. I mean, we've seen it before. I believe Dolph Ziggler did it with The Miz at one point during their Intercontinental Championship run a number of years ago. So this is possible. I would give it like still a 2% chance, and that may be generous. I'm still of the belief I'm not going to be duped by this strategy by WWE of trying to say, well, Ali's going to put his career on the line. There's ways out of that. Ali may go back on his word, and that'll turn him heel. He's kind of a weird babyface anyway. I have no problem with them doing this. It's strategic. I understand why they're doing it. This should not be competitive, but it will be because of the location of this match. So it'll be unnecessarily competitive. They'll have some hope spots. Maybe Mansoor will make an appearance, right? It's possible. Maybe there'll be a run-in and the crowd will go crazy. But ultimately, Gunther should, in reality, he should dominate this match in a very uncomfortably physical way. He won't, though it'll be probably 60-40 in terms of offense with Gunther getting most of it, but Ali will have some hope spots. The crowd will be into this, and because of, as you mentioned, his heritage and where he's from, that's, let's be honest, the reason he's in this position. But Gunther should come away with this. I see no reason in any reality to stop Gunther's championship run because Ali's in his home country or his home area. Like I don't see any value in that, because 98% of people sitting at home that aren't in that country are going to go, why are we doing this again? I mean, it's just one night in that particular area. It would just please the crowd in that moment where, again, the majority of your audience is not there saying, what the hell are you doing? So, yeah, this is a Gunther victory for me all the way, with a micro possibility that Ali walks away with the championship.
Yeah, no, I would agree too. I've been a bit scared with how they've built towards this match, but I don't think that they're going to cut the legs out from Gunther's run. He has re-legitimized that Intercontinental Championship run. To be honest, it's probably the most significant title run, even more than The Miz, because I have to say, I will give credit where credit is due for The Miz. I think he did a great job in like 2016, 2017, trying to re-legitimize that championship, but he never felt close to as serious of a threat as Gunther has. Like, to be honest, like, and I'm going way back here, this feels like the most significant Intercontinental Championship run since Randy Orton in 2004.
That's a fair point. This is, and I don't think it gets enough attention, because everything was Roman, and now it's, well, we have Gunther, but look, we have a shiny new World Heavyweight Championship, which, by the way, is not new. I don't like how they're branding it as new. It's not new. It may look new. They can do whatever they want physically, but it's not a new championship. There's a ton of lineage behind it, and they haven't made that point yet. And it's weird that they're not. They're presenting it to us like it's a brand new championship, and that's the one little inkling I don't like. We'll get to that match next. But yeah, this Intercontinental Championship run, I don't think is getting the attention it deserves. We hear the number of days, but with Roman, with so many days, like hundreds of days ahead of him, it doesn't feel as significant. If Roman hasn't had the run that he's had right now at the same time as Gunther's run, I think, would feel even more significant. But with Roman at 1,000 and Gunther at 300 or a year, it's like, oh, well, Gunther's at a year, Roman's at 3 years, right? So I think that has a bit of an effect. But the Intercontinental Championship it has never felt more important, at least to me, in the last 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's an easy Gunther pick, but there just is that slimmer of doubt that I have. And just quite frankly, I'm being scared. But I do think it's going to be Gunther, but maybe they've just been planting those seeds to kind of swerve us a bit.
Yeah, I think that if Triple H was listening to this, he would say, well, then mission accomplished. Because this is a match on paper that you'd say there is zero chance Gunther loses. But now with them putting the extreme measure in that Ali said he's going to leave if he loses, we're doing exactly what they'd want. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. There's that little bit, and that's all they could really ask for. So, yeah, that's really what they're hoping for. So, all right, let's get to the World Heavyweight Championship match. Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. This one also, to me, has a very, very heavy favorite, but I'll let you take this one first.
I'm going to go AJ Styles. I mean, not AJ Styles. What am I talking about?
I was
Seth
like, wait,
Rollins.
what?
I was just kidding. But I'm going to go Seth Rollins. To be honest, there was a part of me that was going to say, they're going to make AJ Styles win with help from the Bloodline, and then they're going to send AJ over to Monday Night Raw, and they're going to send Seth over to SmackDown in some kind of a trade to swerve us. But I thought about it, and I said they do eventually have to get to Seth versus Roman, but the way Triple H has booked things recently, it's all about long term. And I think that he wants to make Seth Rollins feel like as legitimate of a champion as Roman Reigns has. And you've seen that with these interviews of Seth Rollins with Corey Graves on Monday Night Raw recently. And in my mind, I think that's the way to do it, because when you have Seth and Roman clash the next time, it has to feel different than the many other notches on Roman's belt. It can't feel like a Sammy or a Kevin or a Drew or a Cody. And all those guys felt special in their own separate ways. But I think you have a chance here to really make Seth Rollins feel special and hold this championship, in my mind, till no earlier than the Royal Rumble. And then maybe next year at WrestleMania, you could get to Seth versus Roman. One of them drops the championship, probably Seth. Maybe both of them drop the championship, and you get to a main event clashing between the two of these guys. But in my opinion, it has to be Seth. It will be Seth. I think AJ Styles is going to get a big rub off of this. The other thing I didn't like is they kind of tipped their hand that it wasn't going to be AJ. Not that anyone thought it was going to be, but they tipped their hand with Karrion Kross flipping over the AJ Styles card. It kind of just solidifies it to me. Because like I said, if you didn't tip your hand at all, you could have made the argument like, oh, maybe AJ's going to go to Raw to be the champion, and then Seth will go to SmackDown as part of a trade, and then they'll get right into Seth versus Roman. Like, that's something that did cross my mind. But they tipped their hand, and I thought about it. I think it's Seth, and I think this is a long-term outlook to put him in the same tier and in the same class as Roman to an eventual collision, which my bet would be at this juncture at WrestleMania 40.
I hope so, unless the one I don't speak of anymore comes out of Hollywood, and they finally do that match. But I would imagine that is right now, if Mr. Hollywood doesn't come out and face Roman at 40, that it's Rollins and Roman. How can it not be? The history's there. They planted the seed on Monday nights that may continue to be slowly injected into our minds over the coming months. Because I don't dislike the idea of Seth going to SmackDown in a trade, AJ comes to Raw, all that. But if they're looking at this as a potential WrestleMania main event, well, then we're way off WrestleMania. We're like 10 months off of it, of being able to, get to that main event. So they've got a lot of time to build to that. Or maybe they do it beforehand, and then, Mr. Hollywood comes in. We don't know. But right now, I would agree. I'm not going to get too wacky. I'm going to say Seth Rollins wins this. I don't think that's a revelation to anybody. But I wouldn't say that AJ Styles is impossible. In other words, I wouldn't say that he's Mustafa Ali in this match. I think there's a slightly higher chance that AJ wins this than Ali wins the Intercontinental Championship. What is that percentage in my mind? Maybe like a 5% chance that AJ wins this, or 10 at the very highest. But I definitely think Seth Rollins is overwhelmingly the favorite in this match, and rightfully so. The way Triple H framed this championship and who was going to win it, when he introduced it, he already, as you mentioned, he tipped who was going to win it based on how he introduced the championship, that it's going to be somebody who's a fighting champion. Okay, that's a babyface in WWE's eyes. They're going to defend it anytime, anywhere. I hate the way that's framed because that's like what the 24/7 title represented. I can't stand that. But what they're telling you is this champion is going to be the opposite of Roman Reigns, which means it's a babyface who's going to fight anytime, anywhere. Anybody wants to fight him, they'll compete for the championship. So you knew off the bat it's a major babyface, and that left Cody or Rollins, and Cody got derailed with Brock. So you thought, okay, well, it's got to be Seth, and then they introduced SmackDown stars into it, which also made no sense. But here we are. And AJ Styles, could he hold the belt? He could. And honestly, I hope at some point he does hold one more major championship before his career's over, because he deserves at least one more, maybe like 6-month run with a championship. And because he is that good, and he's older, he's got a ton of mileage on his body, and I respect the hell out of him. But this is Seth Rollins' championship. For all the times that we have complained that Seth hasn't got an opportunity, we kept bringing Seth to the forefront of our conversation. That, because Roman is holding that other championship, now championships, hostage, what the hell? Seth Rollins should be a champion on Raw. Here is the opportunity. Here it is, World Heavyweight Championship. This is Seth Rollins' championship to win or to lose. And I don't even know, when was the last time Seth Rollins, you're better at this than I am with memory. When was the last time that Seth Rollins held a top championship? I know he had the United States Championship for like 10 minutes, but I'm talking about the WWE or Universal. Do you even know?
Coincidentally, it was when he dropped it to The Fiend at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia in October of 2019, following the infamous Hell in a Cell match.
Wow.
So 3.5 years later, very fitting that he presumably is going to walk away with the World Heavyweight Championship and his first world title in, like I just said, 3.5 years. So it really feels like it's coming full circle for Seth Rollins.
All right, well, before we move on for our last two matches, who do you think Seth Rollins' first opponent is? It can't be AJ, because AJ's on Raw or on SmackDown. Who do you think Seth Rollins starts to feud with right off the bat?
My guess is it's a returning heel Drew McIntyre. I think it makes a ton of sense. I think Drew needs a bit of a facelift, and it's too bad, because I think Drew McIntyre never got his due as a babyface world champion in front of a crowd. I will always think that he got the short end of the stick in that regard, carried them rather through the pandemic era. I think that if he had that title victory in front of a full packed stadium, it would have been a massive pop. I remember the build to that against Brock Lesnar. I think that was one of the more thrilling ends to a Royal Rumble. I loved how they turned him babyface. I loved how he eliminated Brock in that main event, or in that Royal Rumble rather. But I think that too much time has gone on here for them to rekindle that flame. So they have to go in a different direction, unfortunately. But a heel Drew McIntyre against a babyface world champion Seth Rollins, I think that's a money program that you could stretch right through the summer.
Ooh, yeah, there you go. I love that. That's you talk about revitalizing Drew's career from the dead. Yes, absolutely. Bring it on. I mean, you like you said, that can be multi-month. People would be into that. The promos would be really good. The matches, I mean, there's really no downside to that whatsoever. And he's an absolute credible opponent. It's not like he's facing someone that you're like, he's kind of a chicken, heel. They're probably not going to win. He would be a badass heel. He has been a badass heel. We've seen it. People just forget he was the heavy for Shane back in the day. When I say like that, back in the day, like 3-4 years ago.
When we started doing the show.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, next matchup here, Undisputed Tag Team Championship match, which this one I'm going to guess is probably going to close the show because Roman's involved, but there's a chance Cody and Brock does. However, the Undisputed Tag Team Championship match here, KO and Sammy versus Roman and Solo. Go ahead.
I think it's be an awesome match, but I think it's Sammy and KO. I think you get some shenanigans with the Usos, probably costing Roman and Solo the tag team titles. I'm wondering who takes the pin. To be honest with you, you could make the case for either. I wonder if it's actually Roman who takes the pin, just to really start to show cracks in the armor and maybe give Sammy his due a bit. I don't think it would be the worst thing in a row. Like, he's already lost a match in the tag team match on New Year's Eve. Now you can go have him have his first pin to really start to see the cracks in the armor. You know, he's going to get past 1,000 days. You can finally start getting to a point where he looks at least somewhat vulnerable. So I'm thinking maybe Roman takes the pin here because of the Usos, which will further the story between the Usos and Roman and Solo and the cracks in the bloodline. But I do, like, there's a part of me that wanted to say Roman and Solo, but I just think that there's no real upside that can come from it aside from the initial shock value. So I think Sammy and KO retain, also because I think we finally have to move on from Sammy and KO and the bloodline. I think it's run its course now. It's been, 4 to 6 months. I think they've squeezed all the juice they can out of it. I think Sammy and KO need to go on to bigger and better things. I think the bloodline needs to have some fresh foes, even if those foes are internally. But my prediction is Sammy and KO retain because of the Usos' interference, and I think Roman takes the pin.
Yeah, to me, this one as I get closer and closer, it's clearer and clearer that Roman and Solo are not going to win here. They just aren't. And because, for so many reasons. Number one, this program between Sammy and Kevin versus the bloodline at all, whatever iteration, whatever members of the bloodline, it's run its course. I don't think we're at the point of like, oh my God, this is so annoying. Can this be over? But if it went 1 or 2 more times, people would get to that point. It's just as good of chemistry as they've had. People are ready to move on. So if they were to lose the belts to Roman and Solo, well, that would mean that they get their rematch, and then it goes another pay-per-view, and it doesn't make any sense. Plus, you'd have Roman Reigns as a tag team champion then, which means he would then now hold that championship hostage, and it just doesn't make any sense here. And it's all about furthering, as you said, the bloodline fractures and really highlighting the stress and the tempers that are going on inside of the bloodline. And that's what this is all about. Do I think the Usos are going to intentionally cost Roman and Solo? I think they'll have plausible deniability where maybe they hit a super kick on somebody that ducks, but did they really do it on purpose? And they'll have to answer to Roman after they lose. That kind of thing. Or they could just flat out intentionally just nail Solo Sikoa with something, or intentionally hit Roman Reigns with a super kick where there's no question of what they're doing. But right now I think they're taking baby steps, and I would too with a successful group like this. You don't just want to cut it off. These kinds of successes you don't see a whole lot in wrestling. So I would take a baby step and say, well, there's plausible deniability here. The Usos, we kind of know they did it on purpose, but they're going to try to sell it to Roman that they didn't, and they just screwed up. And eventually it's going to be Reigns and Solo versus the Usos, probably at Money in the Bank or SummerSlam, I would imagine. So that's all that this match is really designed for, on top of having a really good match. I don't have any questions about that. So yeah, I mean, and really what's going to be even more fun is to watch Paul Heyman's reactions and facial reactions to Roman Reigns losing. Roman Reigns losing the match. He's always so much fun to watch ringside. I always see what he's doing. But your prediction about Roman Reigns taking the pin is an interesting one. That would be huge, because he hasn't been pinned in how many years? I mean, literally, I don't even know. I think, was it Baron Corbin, the last one that actually pinned him? I know that was a singles match, but still. So that would be an interesting wrinkle. Do I think they'll do that? I don't, but I still believe that, yeah, you and I are on the same page with Roman and Solo losing.
Yeah, it's the only way. And to me, I just think that this match has to feel different the way it ends. And I think that since you've gotten to the 1,000-day benchmark now, you could afford to maybe show some weakness, and not even weakness, because he's going to lose in some not hook or crook, but like some indirect way. But I think that it would help to make this loss feel even more significant, with Roman taking the pin because of an inadvertent interference from the Usos, instead of, let's say, Solo, who I think, oddly enough, could probably stand to lose more from taking the pin than Roman Reigns, which is crazy. But I just think at this point in the title reign, how deep we are into it, how significant Roman already feels, I think it would be way more significant for storytelling if Roman was to take the pin because of the Usos inadvertently costing them the match.
Yeah, that would be a massive talking point because Roman still has his championships. Still hasn't lost a singles match.
Got
but
to 1,000 days.
He got to 1,000 days. All of those streaks are still intact. The only streak that's not still intact is, like you said, he hasn't been pinned. And being pinned, but being pinned in a tag team match. So it's like slowly, okay, that's ticked, that box is checked. Next, maybe he loses a non-title match, and then they finally build up to whoever takes the belt off of him. Yeah. That's an interesting way to end the pay-per-view for sure. So, any final thoughts on this before we get to the third main event?
No, I think that's all. Honestly, I don't want to say that this is a predictable outcome, but I do think it's more predictable than maybe we initially thought.
It's still going to be fun though. I'm still because 100%. All the acting from everyone has been top notch. So this is, even though they are, I think, still heavy favorites, it's still going to be fun to watch this storyline play out. So, all right, Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar. This one is a conundrum for me. I'm just going to give you my prediction, and then I'll flesh it out after you give me yours. I think Brock wins. Your turn.
Yeah, I think so as well. I can appreciate how strong they're trying to make Cody look, and that, he's only lost one match, and that was because of a bunch of outside interference at WrestleMania 40. But at a certain point, you have to let common sense prevail. I think they already botched one of Cody's matches, having him defeat Seth Rollins inside Hell in a Cell with the torn pec. I think that did a lot of damage to Seth Rollins, and it wasn't a win that Cody Rhodes needed. But here he's going in with a kayfabe broken arm against a beast like Brock Lesnar. And also, I'm not saying that Brock needs the win. He's as legitimized as one could be. But I do think that if you want to keep using Brock Lesnar in a somewhat significant way for at least the immediate future, at least the next 12 months, you can't have him lose to Cody Rhodes back to back, and especially a second time with a kayfabe broken arm. So in my opinion, it has to be Brock. No hanky-panky, a clean victory, maybe even a squash, to be honest. And I don't think that would hurt Cody Rhodes, because I think that you saw what happened on Monday Night Raw. They're trying to make him look so tough that it also it's now starting to come off as stupid. Who would ever refuse medical attention? You could be the toughest guy in the world, Mike Tyson in the mid to late 90s. I don't think he would ever refuse medical attention if he had a broken arm. So I don't know. Like we've said, we like Cody Rhodes, but it seems like they're going a bit overboard at times, trying to push him to the moon. And I don't think this is a loss that would hurt him in any way. I think that just him showing up, and even if he gets squashed, he's going head to head with Brock Lesnar with a broken arm. You could say it's unsanctioned for all I care, but Brock needs the win, especially now that they've had the angle of Cody having his arm broken. Brock wins, and in my opinion, I'm not saying that this is my prediction, but in my opinion, if I was booking this, it should be a squash match.
In reality, it should be a squash match. I mean, even if Cody didn't have a broken arm, it should be a squash match if this was, real. But obviously in pro wrestling land, Cody, the whole narrative is we're just trying to push Cody as a tough guy. And even Triple H said that to Cody on Raw. And we, you don't have anything to prove. We know how tough you are. That's not something that we're, going to be worried about. And you're going to sacrifice your health to show that, you're tough. And it's like, yeah, and it does show kind of a lack of intelligence on Cody's part. There is a fine line between, being tough and being stupid. And I think Cody Rhodes leaned into kind of stupidity a little bit further, only because, sure, the story was he wasn't getting medical attention, not because he didn't know he needed it or think he didn't, but because he didn't want the match to be called off with Lesnar. But that actually only undermines his argument further, because if you go into that match, which you proved you can't beat Brock with a broken arm because you went back out to the ring and got your ass kicked, that further undermines your argument, because you're going to go into this match and get further injured and lose more time on your career. So, and by the way, you've got a massive target of a broken arm. So I understand what they were going for, that Cody doesn't want to call off the fight. No, he's just going to, he's going to go until his heart stops beating, right? Like, I get it. I understand it. But there does he leaned in a bit of stupidity land on Raw. This match will still happen, obviously. We know that. I think it'll be fun. It'll be uncomfortable, I think, at the beginning, where Brock is just targeting the arm, kicking the arm, putting it in holds. Cody's screaming. Maybe he has it taped up or whatever. I would think he has it taped up, but maybe Brock rips off the protective whatever he's got on it, and it's just uncomfortable for like 80% of the match. And then Cody comes back with a flare of offense, hope spots. Oh my God, Cody could pull this off. And then F5, good night. And Cody loses the match and Brock leaves. That's probably the strategy of this matchup, I would imagine. It's mostly a beatdown, some amazing hope spots from Cody. People get excited, and then whomp, no, he loses. And he should lose. He cannot beat Brock Lesnar with a broken arm. Again, Brock is a made dude, but come on. Like, Brock has lost a lot of matches lately. It needs to happen where Brock wins, and they go to part 3, probably at Money in the Bank. And I know this is a bit more Money in the Bank discussion, but I'm of the belief that Cody Rhodes is about to grab the briefcase, and maybe Brock interferes and costs Cody, or maybe costs him in the qualifying match, where he doesn't even make it to the Money in the Bank ladder match, and Brock Lesnar shows up, costs Cody the qualifying match, and now we're into part 3, which obviously I think is going to happen at Money in the Bank. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I would agree, because I think that especially if Brock wins here, there's a rubber match to be had, and you would presume that it would come at SummerSlam. And then right there, you've turned an amazing program from WrestleMania all the way to SummerSlam for 2 of your more marquee stars. And I just don't think Cody Rhodes is a guy that could benefit from Money in the Bank win either. I think it's made for a heel. My early on guess is, this is obviously a way far too early prediction, but my early on favorite is probably LA Knight.
Ooh, God, I hope so.
Yeah, same with me. But no, honestly, I think I'm in lockstep with that, and I think it would perfectly set up the rubber match between Brock and Cody at SummerSlam.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these two work really well together. It's nice to see Brock in longer matches instead of just kind of the typical German F5 kick out F5 kick out, and then whatever the finish of the match is. It's nice to see Brock because he's capable of more. That's the thing. When he was with Goldberg and all that whole conundrum, they were shortening the matches because of the limitations of Goldberg, not because of the limitations of Brock. And you forget how good he can be in the ring, and he's not just a one-dimensional character like so many of the opponents he's had. So Cody Rhodes brings a ton more of an arsenal of ring psychology and athleticism and understanding what a damn wrestling match is, and it's nice to see him bring that out in Brock again. The only other thing that I'll say about this match is they were billing this as a fight, and their first match was just a wrestling match. They said the second match was going to be a fight. Well, it's still just a plain old wrestling match. It doesn't make any sense that the second version of this match is still just a match, regular match, same rules, countouts apply, DQs apply. And the violence of this program, with Brock breaking his arm with the keg and snapping his arm with the Kimura, all that, like I just don't understand how this is still just a plain old wrestling match. That's one thing I don't get. So.
Yeah, maybe they'll turn it into like an unsanctioned street fight or something along those lines. They'll probably do something hokey. Maybe somewhere they'll announce it on social media. But then again, they only have one more day to do something along those lines. But I'm not really sure, but I do get it. I think they're just trying to make it feel more significant, but it does feel kind of bizarre that you've tried to bill it as something completely different, but to this point it is just scheduled to be a typical wrestling match.
It feels a little bit like, remember Randy Orton and Triple H, I don't know what WrestleMania it was when Triple H
25 was
25 in the violence going into that, and Randy Orton DDTing Stephanie and kissing her while Triple H is handcuffed to the ring, and they're breaking into each other's homes and all that stuff, and it ended up being a plain wrestling match. I mean, like that I still don't understand that. Anyway,
it was very, very bizarre. And then like it even spilled into Backlash with Batista's return, and it was kind of like a weird way to end that feud based on the build.
Yeah, very, very anticlimactic. I remember being kind of like, they could have got so much more out of this. I know every wrestling match doesn't need to be like violence and chairs and weapons, but like when you have a program that intense and that personal, you gotta expand the rules here. And I remember it was like how many years ago, and I'm still like, why? But anyway, so all right. Well, any final thoughts on this before we wrap up?
Nope, that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, enjoy the event, continue to recover, and we'll be talking to you next Monday night after Night of Champions. Actually, no, you won't, because I will be in the MVP arena at Monday Night Raw. So I forgot about that. So we will have to schedule something else during the week to make up for that, maybe like a Raw review or something like that. But yeah, so guys, we'll figure it out. As I on the air just realized this. But hey. We'll be back in touch next week for sure to kind of recap things and see where they are. So,
yeah, man, looking forward to it. Enjoy that Monday Night Raw.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.